Hello, my name is Crystalline Sullivan. I'm a student at Western Governors University, and my presentation today is on white nose syndrome. We as Americans are all aware that our country is suffering economically. Our housing industry has taken a very serious hit. Our unemployment rates are very high, and those are just to name a few of our problems right now. Most of us have an opinion on exactly why we are in the state that we are in and what needs to be done to correct the problem. However, most people may be surprised to find out that there is actually a disease that is contributing to our country's economic plight. And if we would like to see our economic state improve, this disease needs to be taken very seriously. The disease is white nose syndrome, and it is killing America's bats. Research is needed to prevent white nose syndrome in bats because of their value to our ecosystem's vegetation and the balance they contribute to our insect populations. According to David Blairhart, author of the publication Investigating White Nose Syndrome, the disease is killing the bats by altering their sleep patterns during hibernation and eventually causing emaciation. In other words, they're starving to death. Blairhart says that the disease invades the skin, causing ulcers, and it typically presents itself as white patches, particularly around the animal's face. According to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the disease causes odd behavior patterns. For instance, while they are supposed to be hibernating, they will instead be out flying during the day, and they will often congregate inside the opening to a cave instead of deeper inside where it might be a little bit warmer. How is the disease being introduced to the country? How is it being spread? And most importantly, how can we prevent it? Well, the truth is we really don't know how it was introduced. It's possible that people traveling outside the country and then coming back, or maybe travelers from abroad coming to visit our country, brought the disease over here and then went caving and introduced the disease that way. It's also possible that maybe the disease somehow was lying dormant in caves, and then something, and of course we don't really know what, has caused the disease to activate and is now afflicting our bats. How is it being spread? It's possible that it's being spread bat to bat, maybe human to bat, or maybe other mammals to bats. There may be other causes as well, but one of the things that researchers are particularly interested in learning is whether or not there are immune bats. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is calling for protocols in an attempt to try to help the spread of the disease while researchers are trying to learn more about it. Some of those protocols are cleaning and disinfecting all caving equipment when going cave to cave, or even in mines. Also closing all caves that are infected or are at high risk of being infected. The National Speleological Society is asking for its members to support the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in following their protocols, and also asking its members to spread the word to non-members. They are asking for assistance in researching, educating, and spreading the word to try to solve this problem. The disease was first documented in 2006 and 07, the winter of. Since then, over 1 million bats are dead. It is spreading very quickly. This is according to Boyles, Cryan, Kuntz, and McCracken, the authors of the publication Economic Importance of Bats in Agriculture. Bats can consume as much as 6 to 8 grams of insects per night. Extrapolated, that comes to 660 to 1,320 metric tons of insects not being consumed every year. This could lead to an agricultural loss of $3.7 billion every year in crops. This is just one of the reasons that this is a very important thing, and in my opinion, that alone is reason enough to take this disease very seriously. But bats are also the only pollinators for some very important things, such as bananas, peaches, mangoes, dates, the saguaro cactus, and the agave plant, just to name a few, according to Buckman, Murphy, Johnson, and Bravert, authors of Kartchner Caverns Interpreter's Handbook. If we were to lose the bats, if they were to become extinct, we would not have those things. In conclusion, bats are very important to our ecosystem and to our economy. Their loss would have dire consequences. Everything that can be done should be done to prevent the disease. The first case in the winter of 06-07 was on the East Coast. As of 09 and 010, it is as far west as Oklahoma. Research needs to be done quickly before the bats are endangered or worse yet, extinct. We can help by following the protocols. We can donate our time, money, and expertise to this important cause. Any questions?
Are there any specific types that are not affected?
At this time, we haven't been able to prove that there are immune bats, although obviously this would be very important for researchers to find out. If they could find bats that are immune, then they could study those and try to find a cure for the bats that are not.
Okay, and then is there any areas that are more affected than others in the United States?
The East Coast is heavily affected right now, whereas the West Coast hasn't had any cases of white nose syndrome at this time. But the winter of 09-010, the disease was documented as far west as Oklahoma. It is spreading very, very quickly, so that has researchers nationwide scrambling to find a cure for the disease before we lose all of our bats.